All right, we're live. I think. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're live. All right, so this is going to be an interesting live stream. It's about the YouTuber Vegan Gaze. I got this video prepped that I'm going to go through and react to, but that's going to be after I'm done saying the main thing I want to say. So a little backstory. So I started a reasonable vegan channel like 6, 7 months ago. And right before I did that, I had my other channel, just my name, Carson Hughes. And I had come across Vegan Gaze, and I, either in chat, in a live stream, or just a personal email or comments or something, I asked her if she wanted to have a talk on my stream from that channel. And she said she did, and that we'd set it up and that I should email her. And I sent her an email, and I never heard back from her. Which is fine. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I have a strong thought on that. Like, at some point, depending on the person, like, I mean, I get a lot of emails and I can't reply to all of them, but I reply to most of them. But if I tell somebody to email me because something's going to happen and then they don't, I find that, I don't know. I definitely frown on that, but it's not a big deal. I'm just kind of analyzing it as a person that analyzes things. But anyways, I saw that she was live streaming a couple days ago, and I went on her live stream and I typed in the comments like, hey, you told me you wanted to talk a while back and you never responded to my email. And she's all like, oh, I didn't know I ever talked to you. And I explained the thing about how it was on my other channel. And then she basically said, and before I explain what she said, I want to point out that I'm not wanting this to be a negative thing. I'm wanting to clear up kind of a misunderstanding, and I don't know if she'll watch this, but if she does, that's great. But I think there's a huge misunderstanding, and that's what I want to clear up. But anyway, she said that she didn't want to have a talk because she didn't like the things I had to say. That so she's seen like some of my other videos, heard me say some things, and that she didn't like the things I had to say. And I would show this video, but her live streams aren't still available unless like you're a member, and then they come back. But so I'll paraphrase. I'll basically paraphrase her paraphrasing me. But pretty much the main thing that she said, she might have a lot of different things she doesn't like about me and my ideas, but the main thing she said is that she didn't like that I said, and I wrote this down so I can repeat it, but that I said beatless Mondays, as in wife beaters not beating their wives on Monday is a great thing. Like that, something to that point. Beatless Mondays for people that beat their wives, not beating their wives on Monday is a great thing. So me saying something to that effect made her dislike me and maybe some other things. But anyways, that's the only information she gave me. So I want to explain something here. So for one thing, I don't like to back down from a challenge or like a question. I don't mind being wrong about something. I don't mind answering something and then coming back and retracting it or something. But if somebody tries to challenge my ideas, I'll let them take it to whatever extent they want to. So the idea of me ever talking about something like beatless Mondays or slaveless Tuesdays or any of these things that are comparable to meatless Mondays are almost all brought from other people. It's from me saying something that like I think meatless Mondays is a good thing, and then I'll explain it only referring to animals. And then they'll say, you think that's a good thing? Well, that must mean that you're okay with slaveless Tuesdays or beatless Mondays for beating your wife or whatever. And then I'll come back and explain my thoughts on that. So there's a huge difference between somebody responding to something and somebody saying something on their own. Because one of the concerns that maybe she has with me is if she thinks that I like to provoke, like I like to say outrageous things or something, which I don't. I just happen to accept outrageous challenges. Vegan Gains challenged me with something involving me sacrificing my own life to stop the Holocaust or whatever. There's like wild challenges that could come across offensive. but it's not because I'm trying to provoke. It's because I'm saying whatever I say, and then when somebody challenges me, I don't turn it down. So that's one angle of it. I don't know if her care is the provoking, but if her care is the claim, I think there's a problem here. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with not wanting to talk. If she doesn't want to have a conversation with somebody for whatever reason, that's fine. Now she'll debate non-vegans, so people that think we should harm animals and that will be fighting to harm animals, and then she'll talk to fellow vegans. But then I guess there must be something about certain types of fellow vegans that makes it pointless to talk to them, even if you're going to talk to non-vegans. I can't imagine what that is. It makes sense to me, sort of, that there's somebody like Sky from Vegan, of course, where he only talks to vegans. He doesn't debate non-vegans. And so that's his thing, and that's cool. And then it makes sense to have a thing where you debate non-vegans, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to debate non-vegans, and they might not talk to vegans because that's just they want to focus their time on talking to non-vegans. But to talk to both, but then to have certain vegans you won't talk to is I find it kind of strange. And the only reason it would make sense to not do it is if you thought somebody was a troll. Like if you thought somebody was like claiming to be a vegan and they weren't, or that they were just saying nonsense just for the sake of it. I've had to stop conversations with a couple troll type people like that before. So hopefully she doesn't think I'm a troll of any kind. Like I'm a person. I happen to like moral philosophy and discussing it. And I happen to be a vegan, and I happen to be very passionate about helping animals. And so there might be a couple different things about me that might some people might not like I eat bivalves, and I'm okay with bivalve eating. And then, like the whole Beatless Monday things, I'll talk about some outrageous things. I have some different thoughts on welfarism and a handful of different things. But the problem with being mad at somebody about this Beatless Monday idea is that it is practically objectively wrong. It's wrong to view my idea as bad. So basically, my idea is practically objectively right, as in morally right. Now, most people view morals as subjective, which is fine. They mostly are. But I would say the closest thing to morals being not subjective is sentient beings, humans and other animals, any sentient beings, do not want pain, and they do want pleasure. Now, I don't really have a strong take on if people should feel obligated to give pleasure, but intentionally causing pain, I think, is possibly the wrongest thing, the most objectively immoral issue. And that's because that's where morals come from. The idea of something being wrong must mean that there is pain happening, or pain or suffering or something like it. And now there will be cases where it's acceptable to do certain things because it's your only option or whatever. But for the most part, causing pain is wrong. So causing less pain is better than causing more pain. So I really don't like. There's nothing wrong with being offended by the idea of talking about Holocaust and comparing things to beating people or things with children or whatever. But one thing I will say, I'm pretty sure that Vegan Gaze does talk about the Holocaust as in like the animal Holocaust, even if people will be offended that it feels like it's being compared to the Jewish Holocaust. So it can't be something like that. It can't be that when I say Beatless Mondays for beating your wife is better than not having the Beatless Mondays. It can't be, but it must be. Just the idea of hearing about a woman being beat sounds so horrible that I can't listen to anything else. I'm so angry that I won't listen to anything else. And it's essentially what's happening when somebody hears animal Holocaust compared to Jewish Holocaust. Now, I actually don't think it's the best approach to go. But if you do, liking one and not the other is so bizarre to me. But there's almost any possible scenario that we can look at that would involve something like the Beatless Monday thing it's practically just clear. Now, similar to animals, if you have meatless Mondays and then people just add extra meat to their other days and therefore they're not cutting back on any meat, then there's nothing good about it. Same thing with beatless Mondays for beating wives. If you beat your wife every day and then somebody convinces you to do beatless Mondays, but then you just beat her extra on other days, then beatless Mondays for beating your wife is not a good thing. But the point with the meatless Monday thing is it seems to be something that could likely go in the direction of if somebody intentionally is cutting meat out of their diet and hopefully dairy and eggs on one day a week. A couple things are happening here. For one, they're doing it for a reason. They're like, something made them do it. They're not just like randomly like, I'm not going to listen to any ideas of these vegans or anything connected to morals or health or whatever, but I'm just going to magically do it because I heard of it. I heard of Meatless Mondays, but I don't have any thought it's a good thing. I'm just going to do it. No, if somebody's thinking about doing Meatless Mondays or talked into it, they're talked into it for a reason, or they're thinking about it for a reason. So it means it's on their mind. So similar to most vegans, any of you out there that are listening to this, if you're vegan, then you probably went through this period of time of thinking about going vegan and then going vegan. And if part of that process is being convinced to do Meatless Mondays and then Meatless Monday and Tuesdays, then you're doing it for a reason. So it doesn't mean that it's no matter what, a Meatless Monday is a good thing. There's just so many positives to it that it makes sense to me to consider it a good idea. And if somebody says, oh, well, what about beatless Mondays for your wife? It must be the same thing unless you don't think beating is wrong. If somebody punches their wife in the face once a day, every day, that's 7 punches a week. If you can talk them into only doing 8 punches a week, that is good on so many levels. There's less suffering happening. The wife clearly would like that. Now, obviously, the wife should want out of there. The wife should want to run away or whatever. But in a world where there could be a beatless Mondays, it most likely would have to be something like that. It's legal to beat your wife. If it's not, then maybe she's held captive, and that's bad, and it's a whole other thing. But if she's not held captive and she can run away and report this thing and move to a different place and this guy can go to jail, then none of it matters. The reason it matters with animals, and it would matter if there were a case that made sense with beatless Mondays, would be when the law is not on your side. If the law, it says you can do a certain bad thing, then the most we can do is try to talk people into not doing it. I personally think it's wrong to circumcise baby boys, well, or girls, but that doesn't happen in my country, so I'm mentioning boys. But the law lets you do it. So I can know somebody, I can have a friend or a family member that has a kid that circumcises their kid, and this is a horrible thing happening in my mind. Like, I don't think this is a good thing, but the law is on their side. I can't make them not. I can't report them. And so in a case like that, I would try to talk them out of it. Now, if I can't talk them out of the first one, it's not like I should just never try to talk them out of doing it for any of their kids. It would be great if I could talk them out of the second one. And so obviously the beatless Monday thing for the wife is just, it's more, I don't know if I'd call it a joke. It's more of trying to prove a point from the other side, and then the point just falls flat. But the reason it's trickier is because we're not used to it. Hindsight makes everything look easy. We can look back and go, I wouldn't have burned witches. I wouldn't have owned slaves. I wouldn't have, if I was a German in Nazi Germany, I wouldn't have been a Nazi. We can look at these things and think of what we would have done or wouldn't have done. But in the actual situations, it makes it quite tougher. Even if you're a person on the right side, how you react to it is a whole different thing. Like if you lived in the time of slavery, like what you would have done, like would you have been a vigilante and went around trying to kill slave owners? Probably not. But you would speak up and try to get these things stopped. And and so anyways, when the law is on your side, it's a way trickier thing. And by your side, I mean the other person's side, the abuser side. The law is on the side of harming animals, and I wouldn't guess that somebody that beats their wife would feel like if they thought it was wrong but they couldn't stop, they might want to stop and they would like do it a little less or anything like that. So they would do the Monday thing. I don't think that would work out that way. So maybe it doesn't work out well for the animal thing either. But part of the problem here is people are raised eating animals. They eat animals every day for every meal, and they're raised this way. And they might be thinking like, oh, I see the idea. I want to stop. I think it's immoral, but I'm not positive. I don't know. I don't think I can go cold turkey. And so maybe the best thing for them is to cut out Mondays. I think humans kind of work this way in general. Like I've been off and on healthy and unhealthy. And so for me, not that anything's really worked, but what seems to have worked the best would be things like where I say, I'm going to cut out soda completely. And then I'm going to cut out deep fried things completely. And so like cutting out little categories, instead of saying, okay, here's the healthiest diet ever, I'm going to do everything on this perfectly and I'm not going to make a mistake. That's really hard to do. And even the cutting out individual things is hard to do, but it's a lot easier. And I know what it's like, as do all of us, to have been not vegan and then to care about animals and want to go vegan. Because I went vegan when I was 20 and I was vegan for like a little over a year, and I fell off the wagon because of food cravings and stuff. And then I went back and forth and back and forth. And now I've been vegan for over 8 years. And hey, Jeremy. Well, and everybody else. Hey, Vegan Stallion and Elbow. But yeah, and so anyways, long story short, there's no way to argue against beatless Mondays for beating your wife. There's just no logical way to argue it. Same thing with slaveless Tuesdays. When there were slaves, if slaves were slaves every single day, and the slave owners were convinced that, hey, this isn't a moral thing, and then they go, okay, I accept it, but I still need to have them as slaves, but I want them to feel better, so I'll have them not be slaves on Tuesdays. They have complete freedom on Tuesdays. Nobody on our staff can boss them around or whip them or anything like that. This must be good. This must be. Now, there are ways that you can say, well, if that happened and then something followed it, and then we're declaring this thing must have followed it, and that's a bad thing, then sure, that maybe that's not good. But the actual individual action must be good. Same thing goes for the Beatless Mondays thing. It just might sound bad, but it shouldn't. Like, so I don't know. I came here trying to explain this in case Vegan Gaze watches this, and then hopefully she will recognize that maybe she misunderstood it or something. But really, there's almost no way to break it down and explain it. It just is so clear. But the problem is a lot of people view this idea as you must advocate for everything. Now, advocating is complicated because there's a difference between advocating when you're just talking to the world. I mean, I'm sort of talking to Vegan Gaze right here, but I'm also sort of just making a video with information that I'm sending out into the world. And so when you do that, you might say a certain thing. But when you talk to each individual, you're going to talk differently for various different reasons. Whether you're talking to somebody older or younger or male or female, or you just get a vibe for how interested they seem in a topic. If somebody seems barely interested in talking at all, you're going to want to if you want to talk to them and get something across to them, you're going to want to maybe talk to them about themselves and how they feel about certain things, and not have this vegan blah, 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 and make them just run away. You're going to want to be careful and talk in different ways to different people. And so So yeah. Anyways, let me check something. There's definitely a way to argue against it, but it's an empirical question. Does it, in fact, slow down future progress in more than? We simply don't know that answer from our. Yes, that's correct. So Jeremy's pointing out, and I think I said this before Jeremy hopped on, but that it's an empirical question. It comes down to the data, and it's like the thing I was saying. If you don't eat meat on Mondays, but then you add meat to your other days, then it did not do anything. If you don't beat your wife on Monday, but then you add extra beating on other days, it doesn't do anything. So in any of these cases where this is being talked about, it's being talked about the idea of that not being the case. It's been talked about the idea of somebody trying to change themselves. If somebody does this thing, it's to change themselves. Now, if they're forced to do it, if there's some kind of law that forces you to do it, where you are forced to not beat them on Mondays, but there's no law affecting the other days, then yeah, they're probably just going to beat them more the other days. So yeah. Anyways, let's see. Hey, Lewis. And then Elbow says, there is no evidence, but the position is held as though there is. It's similar to those who denigrate welfarism on the grounds that it would halt any progress. Yeah, definitely. And my stance on this, and I could be wrong, but my stance is you don't do something bad because you think it might help. If you know it might help, or feel like you know it will help, then maybe, but just barely maybe. But the best way to counter this idea of the welfarism thing, the thing where if you focus on welfare for animals, then it's going to be worse for animals. You have to imagine a future welfare issue. So you have to take an animal and take something. My favorite example I ever came up with was the cutting off the legs of cows. So right now, I'm guessing it's illegal to cut off the legs of cows. If you cut off the legs of cows, stitch them up, but keep them alive, I'm guessing this is illegal. So if people figured out that they could do this and put them on shelves and pump them full of stuff that'll just fatten them up, but they're alive and they can feel this misery of not being able to move around, and we can just know that they have the worst lives ever, and this doesn't happen yet. This is not currently legal. Then if you are against animal welfare, then you have to be accepting of that coming into place. You have to be accepting of any animal torture practice coming into place. You have to be accepting of hanging animals from their feet out in public from the rafters and just slow stabbing them while blood's going everywhere. Now, you don't have to be in favor of maybe like humans having to witness this, but you have to be in favor of any animal torture being legally acceptable if you are going to say that you shouldn't fight against animal torture. And that's kind of the biggest problem here, which is why I think that maybe the biggest thing that we do need to work on as people when it comes to animals is animal welfare. I think it actually probably it almost must go above the idea of abolition. Just especially when you factor in the likelihood of the time of abolition and not doing it, but really there's just no way around it. You have to accept one or the other. You either fight against horrible atrocities, or you have to accept future atrocities. So, very curious to hear how people feel about that. Okay, Lewis said, I disagree with you, Carson, on a number of issues, but I still come here because he's honestly trying to figure it out, in my opinion. Jeremy, I mean, I would say that people doing Meatless Mondays who claim it's too hard to get nutrition and fullness entirely on plants are seriously mistaken. I don't know how to figure out if they are mistaken. But yeah, I mean, they probably are of some kind. you almost have to set up like some kind of a study where these people are force fed like a whole bunch of rice and beans and see how they handle it. Let's see. Logic. Let's see. Senalima. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name right. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but hello there. I think Vegan Gaze never debates any vegans, only carnists. Yeah, no, that's right. So debate-wise, it's carnist, and then, but she has many conversations with fellow vegans, and that was kind of my point. Is it makes sense to only talk with carnists, which I think like someone like Earthling Ed, that's pretty much all he does is debates against vegans. He will do some talks with vegans. I mean, I know a lot of people don't think of Alex O'Connor as vegan now, but when he was being vegan, he did like 2 different talks with Earthling Ed. But I think Earthling Ed, as far as his own channel and his own content, he doesn't. And then there's people like Sky from Vegan, of course, that only talk to vegans and don't debate other people. But then there's a bunch of people that do both. So I do both. Vegan Gaze does both. Let's see. Does she? Okay, maybe I just missed it. Yeah, like a friend of mine from Australia, Vegan for Kindness, who's great, and you should track him down and subscribe to him. He just had a talk with her, and it might be more so that she has the talks on other people's channels, but then she'll have vegans where it's her and another vegan analyzing some videos and different things like that, which is the case where I think it's best to have 2 different types of vegans with different opinions analyze a video, because then the 2 analyzing it can have different thoughts, and it can be more interesting and lead to more information. So okay, so that's basically my idea there. I just wanted to point this out. I just want to make sure that Vegan Gaze, that if her problem with me is just the Beatless Mondays thing, that I wanted to help her see that take just doesn't work, and that's it. So I'm gonna react to her video here in a sec. But I guess another thing I want to point out is like, so if Beatless Mondays happened and it didn't help and there was more beating for some reason, then that would be bad. And I would agree with everybody that knows that that's bad. And then if it did help, then I would like to think that everybody would agree like, hey, it helped. It's not great, but it helped. Most bad things in the world, they can either start getting better or worse, like crime in the country you live in, like in the US, crime was at its worst in like the 90s. But I mean, still thousands of people die every year. So it's not great. It's not great that people die, but I'd rather like 2,000 people die a year than 10,000 people die a year. So anyways, if there's other things that she thinks about me or my thoughts, I guess I would love to hear them. I mean, I don't really care in a sense. I mean, I do care. Like, I don't want people to think things about me that aren't true. I don't need to have a conversation with her. I'm just always up for conversations with people, and I think I've liked most of her content that I've seen, so I'd be up for having a conversation with her. This just seems like a horrible reason in my mind, and I don't mean any offense by that. This seems like a horrible reason to not have a conversation with somebody. If there are other reasons, I guess I'm curious to hear them. Carson, have you reached out to Justin from Debug Your Brain? Okay, so Debug Your Brain is easily the best vegan channel out there. Justin's so great. I was thinking about doing because I'm going to be doing like audit the vegan type videos where I'm just reacting to videos like this one I'm about to react to with Vegan Gaze, where like these people are great for going out and having these talks, and they're doing better than I could probably do. I was going to do it, and I haven't had a chance to do it because it's kind of tough. It's tough to set up like microphones and get somebody to like film for you. And I mean, I could probably do it. It's just it's a lot of work, and I'm a dad. I got a bunch of kids, and so it's easier to hop into the office and record podcast stuff than it is to go and do street talks. And so how I like to view these things is they're doing this thing better than I could do, but it's still fine to critique. You don't have to be able to do what somebody's doing to critique them. And I only want to critique if there's value in it. And so I view it kind of like a chess game where two chess players could be better than me playing chess. But if I'm standing there watching, I'm kind of seeing it from a different angle, and I'm able to think about it as the person not playing. So I might think of a move one of them missed. And so, so I'm going to be reacting to a bunch of videos. But it's funny about Justin, Debug Your Brain. I almost don't want to react to any of his because I've never seen a flaw in his, I don't think. I think he's just great. Whereas Earthling Ed, I love Earthling Ed, but every video I can point out a dozen things that I think he should have done differently. And that's just a personal opinion. But yeah, so I think this kind of thing is good. The only way that vegans are going to convince other people to go vegan is conversations. And so if I'm looking at conversations with vegans and non-vegans, maybe my insight could be helpful, or at least worth thinking about when it comes to how they're handling it. But as far as have I talked to him, I've heard that he wanted to have a talk with me. I tagged him in a thing. I don't really do the social medias, so I don't go on Twitter or anything like that. A friend of mine talked to him, and he does want to set up a talk with me at some point, but he's pretty busy, and then he was kind of sick for a while. And so anyways, I do plan on having a talk with him at some point. It'd be interesting to see what we disagree on. I'm sure there are a few things, maybe within the welfarist and maybe the crop death area. But for the most part, I love everything he says. So, yeah. Okay. Jeremy says, I wish Total Veganic Future was more active. Okay, everybody watching this, go make that thing more active. I don't know Total Veganic Future, but I'll look into that, and everybody else should. Charlie says, are you going to read Ed's new book? I will. I actually still haven't read Ed's first book, but I want to read both, and I like the idea of his new book. It's part of what makes me want to go through and go over the way he talks to vegans, because I think he's like one of the nicest guys ever, and he does a thing that I don't think is really teachable with like how he talks to people. But I do think maybe his approach isn't the best approach for the last half of his talks. And so I do want to go over his book. And yeah, anyways. Jeremy said, I would love to see Carson on the streets of Salem, though getting called a crazy Portland hippie. Yes, that's exactly what would happen. Okay, so I have a 10-minute video of vegan gays doing street talks. And let me move this to this. Is that the one? There we go. Yeah, so let's go over this. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts as we go through. I skipped the coming up part. I have not seen this at all, other than like what the part where it says coming up.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's
we go to prison. We go to prison and say if a human kills another human being. Yeah. Apparently, that's more important than a human being killing a pig.
Yeah.
When in fact, it probably shouldn't be.
No, I mean we don't know if there's a
agree,
yeah, we don't think there's a morally significant difference between them.
Nobody's showing this, so it's good that you guys are showing it.
Yeah, well, we get mixed responses. Obviously, people aren't happy that we're showing this, but people need to see if they're not vegan. This is what is being paid for. Are you vegan yourself?
I was vegan for a while, and recently I've been more pescatarian.
Oh, pescatarian.
So I eat fish.
Okay. Do you think that the same would apply to the fish?
I would think so. But it's hard to imagine. Yeah. The fish is a little bit more, because I suppose they don't shout and scream.
They can't scream, yeah. We don't have that empathetic response, but it's still the case they are indeed sentient.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they are not.
You don't drink milk or eggs or anything. Or you do? No. Yeah, because we show that as well. We show like the egg industry, like the day-old chicks being macerated when they're male because they can't lay eggs. You know, we show dairy that the babies being stolen from their mums, you know. And then
I'm going to comment on this fish thing in a sec, but really quick, Nikki said that I should react to some David Ram stuff, and I think that might be one of the approaches I do. I'm hoping to set up a talk with David soon, but I like his stuff, but I think it could be worth analyzing. I won't make my comment on Joey, but I will react to some of his stuff. Okay, and then let's see. Do you do outreach too, or is it just philosophical aspect more your thing? Only just found your channel. Sorry. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so most of my channel is me having conversations with people just all over the world. I talk to people from various different countries, India, UK, all kinds of different places, Brazil, a lot of people in the US though. And anyways, I talk to probably 80%, 70, 80% vegans, and then, 70% or 20% non-vegans. And I love talking to non-vegans, but usually almost all of them I come across that want to talk, even the hunters, they're usually really nice and they mostly don't harm animals or don't want to harm animals. And they want to go vegan. Some of them say they wish it was illegal to eat animals so they could be forced to do it. They just, they're addicted to it. And so, yeah, so I do talks like that, but I also, most of my talks are talking to vegans. I've had a couple talks with Vegan Gains and, George from Carnism Debunked, had a couple talks with him. And then just, random vegans on the internet, just people I might find in comment sections on either my comment or like Earthling Ed's comments or whatever. And then I'll just be chatting with somebody in the comments and say, hey, want to come on and talk? And then, they'll challenge my ideas. I'll challenge theirs. But yeah, so that's the only kind of outreach I would say I've really done. I haven't done the street talks. I've talked to random people on the street about veganism, but not filmed. It's just complicated. As you can see here, like I would settle for this. I would do this, but the sound is kind of wonky. The camera works a little wonky. And so I guess, I don't do this for money. I do this because I care about animals and I enjoy the talks as well. And so if I ended up doing something like this for money, where I could do it in my own town or traveling to other towns, and I could pay somebody to film it, and then I, buy some nice mics or whatever. Right now, I just happen to have the stuff to do conversations like this. So that's mostly what I do. Okay, so as far as this talk they're doing, so far they've just talked about the pescatarian thing. The fish thing is kind of interesting because they were talking about how fish don't scream, so you can't be as empathetic to them as like you normally would. And I think this is a very good point. So if you set aside any scientific ways of studying things, the only way to decide if you think you want to eat an animal would be if something seems similar to you. So if you see like a cow or a pig or whatever living back like thousands of years ago, it don't need to be that far ago, but if you did, let's just say, I'm just saying thousands to get as far away from science as I can. If you just see this animal and go like, hey, should I kill this thing and eat it? If you go near it, it's going to try to run. If you think it can't feel any pain and you throw a rock at it, you'll hear it whimper. You'll see the blood come out. You'll see that it has eyes like you and ears like you and all these different things. So the more it's like you, the easier it is for you to go, like, I feel pain, I feel suffering. If I get cut, I bleed. This person over here got cut and they died. And, so you can go, that animal is probably feeling things like me, even though they can't talk. So you can recognize that maybe they're less intelligent, or maybe they're equally intelligent, but they can't talk, or whatever. You can analyze these different things for yourself. And then you might see a fish and go like, oh, there's no screaming. And I don't know if fish have blood, or they have, I don't know what fish have. But if you can't connect to this thing, then you might not think it feels anything. Now, I think, there seem to be a handful of studies showing that fish feel pain. I don't eat fish. But if somebody thought like, okay, I need this fish to be healthy, and they feel a lot less pain than other animals, then I guess it makes sense. I would eat any animal I needed to be healthy. I just don't think I need to eat any animals to be healthy. But if I was convinced, if this guy's convinced and I was like him and I was convinced that I had to eat fish to be healthy, I would do it. And I would hope the animal that I thought was going to be the healthiest for me, I would hope that would happen to be one that doesn't feel pain or feels less pain than other animals. Or at least if I felt like I needed to eat animals, I'd want to eat ones that aren't tortured. So like I would rather pay a friend that's a hunter that goes and shoots a deer dead that didn't suffer anything other than maybe the seconds of being shot. I'd rather do that than go pay for chicken meat in a store where a chicken was like filled with hormones and grew double its size in a short amount of time and had to stay in a small area, and its legs broke out from under them and their beaks were clipped off when they were first born, and just having this suffering, horrible, miserable life. If you're going to eat animals anyways, like, just try to do less suffering versus more. So yeah, I forgot what I was talking about, but here we go.
And obviously, any of these industries where they're not directly killing the animals now, they're going to use them and then they're going to kill them. It's horrible. We breed them to kill them, and we breed them to use their bodies and then kill them.
Like Hitler all over again.
I mean, yeah, well, people get offended when that comparison is made, but, you know...
And this is in the UK, right?
This is the US, but it looks the same. You're using this, I've been in farms myself in the UK across like Wales, I've been like in Norfolk area, like all over the place. It looks the same. And you can go to the red tractor approved, free range, small operations. You're going to find ill animals who are dead in the bins, animals who are like, you know, even if they're fine, they're not going to be when someone slits their throat. It's just an absolute atrocity. And like, we can only stop it by going vegan and trying to get others to go vegan. They're like, worldwide, go vegan. But I don't see it really happening if we don't go vegan first, you know?
So there's no perfect way to do this. I feel like I would start from a smaller angle than just saying, and then the only way to stop this is to go vegan and the whole world go vegan. And then, so, because you got to keep in mind, first of all, most people aren't going to change off of one conversation. They're just not. And then you want them to feel like they can like trust you and feel comfortable with you and not feel like you're crazy or whatever. Now, obviously, somebody that's that different from somebody's, one's vegan, one's not, there's going to be some thought of crazy if they disagree with you. But if you start from a different angle of just like asking them their thoughts, asking them if they think certain things are okay, if certain things should be illegal, just getting conversations going about morals of it. Because that's the thing, like, most animal products are from factory farms where horrible things are happening. And sorry, I heard a weird noise in my house, and I was curious what it was. And I don't know, I feel like we don't have to stop there. We don't have to, like, they can just share their opinion on how horrible factory farms are and stop there. But imagine how much better the world would be if the whole world was talking about this horrible thing that most people do. Because then you can, if they say like, oh yeah, factory farms are horrible, I wish it was all this or whatever, then you could say, well, do you buy factory farmed? And yeah, anyways.
But yeah, this is if you ever want to share with people, like, that's Dominion. Like, as you were saying, the idea that we are the center. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Thank you. We're showing people animal agriculture and what happens right now. You're seeing the dairy industry. So for dairy, obviously that's made for the babies there, the calves. Just like humans, they're mammals, so that they have babies. And obviously humans want to drink the milk, so it ends up meaning that they get taken away from their mums. And we're showing more than just that, yeah. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard of veal. That's baby cows, calves.
Kill it?
Yeah, they kill them, yeah. And yeah, that's what veal is. Because baby's flesh is very tender, actually a lot of the animals we eat, I don't eat them myself, are babies, yeah.
Oh man, it almost seems intentional, but clearly it's not. These guys standing in front of the cameras cracking me up.
But we're trying to stop people from buying animals and their secretions because it means that they...
Honestly, this whatever it's called, Anonymous for the Voiceless, where they, I don't know if this is part of that or just something like it, but the standing out on the street with the screens showing what happens and then the people stopping and watching, this is probably one of the best things that can be done. Some people might find it offensive and some people might say that, like, statistically it doesn't work or anything. But somebody that eats animals, stopping and seeing that for a second, they're at very least going to be thinking about it. And humans seem to have this thing where if somebody starts debating them or disagreeing with them, even if they were to think the person's right, we have this thing in our head where we don't want to be wrong, so we want to counter it. We want to like attack it. Where a video showing this horrible thing, it's that video is not trying to argue with you, so you aren't able to fight it and attack it. Now you can see it and go, "Oh man, do I contribute to that?" and then come up with some kind of an excuse in your head. But I think you're more likely to walk away thinking of the ideas on your own and then be more prepped for a conversation with a vegan later. Not that I'm saying people shouldn't talk at the same time. I'm just saying that even if I think some street talks don't go the best, or that if certain methods of veganism is harmful for veganism, like certain ways of talking, I think can push people even further away from veganism. I think even if it pisses people off, one of the best things is just having that footage exist, because that's a real thing that's happening. Now, obviously, we shouldn't have faked footage. Like we shouldn't like create some not realistic, just filmed reenactments or something and show that. But if you show true footage of factory farms and then that exists, you can't really go too far with that unless you like walked into like a first grade classroom or something. That probably shouldn't. That should be left up to the parents. But in a public area where your parents can say like, "Oh, don't look that way," or "We're not going to go down the street," I think it's great to do that.
Get a bolt gun in the head, or they get sent to be gassed, or they have their throat slit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Would you like a card for more information? Yeah. Thank you so much. It's in animal agriculture, so anything involving animals.
That's interesting. So one of my go-to thoughts is always that you don't want to talk too much. You want to let them talk. So when you say like, "Oh, this is what happens in the dairy industry," and they take the calf away or whatever, let the other person talk, because the more they hear you, I just don't think that they're going to like soak it in. You want them to kind of be stuck with not knowing what to say, or them feeling like there's an open conversation that they can be part of. But if somebody's not talking at all, and if you think they're just going to walk away, then yeah, it might be good to get more information in. I think Vegan Gaze has a really nice voice and talks very calmly for the most part. So I think there definitely is some good going on here.
So that's like the food.
How did
Yeah, it's,
I did give you the
yeah,
baby on their head.
yeah,
Okay, now I get it.
yeah. Right now this is fish. But yeah, we show other things like entertainment. We use animals for their skin. We're just trying to get people to open up a conversation to ask like, what is the morally significant difference between us animals and them animals? That means, okay, we can slit their throats, we can pull them out of their habitat by the trillions and kill them. Like, why can we do that to them, but we wouldn't accept that for us? I don't get it. Because we're apes, we're animals.
Exactly, yeah.
We're not special. Like, they feel as well. This right here, I think. What's about to happen here? What is happening now? Oh yeah, this is dairy. So this is artificial insemination. So they put their hand in their anus and then they inject the semen that they've ejaculated from a bull. Yeah, and then she'll have a baby. There's their baby.
Oh, that is so...
It's cute, right? But then their baby's going to be taken away from them. Because people want their milk. This happens. This is every time, because obviously milk, we make milk for our babies. They make milk for their babies, and if we have their milk, their babies are gone, and their baby.
I want to look into it further, because it's kind of interesting that they constantly keep them pregnant. Because with humans, you have the baby, you got the milk. As long as the baby's drinking the milk, which can go on for years and years. Some people do 3-4 years. Most probably stop around 2-ish, 2.5. But like the milk keeps coming in. So I don't know if cows are different. Because it can't be that there's a huge veal industry. I guess it could be that it's a mixture of they get the same amount of milk. Although I don't know if milk keeps being there while they're pregnant. But maybe part of it is that they want the the new calves. They want the females to be the milker cows. And maybe that's their main reason. But whenever I hear that said, that they have to get them pregnant again to get more milk, I either assume that's wrong or there's something about cows I don't know. Because with humans, and I would guess all mammals, once you have the baby, you will have the milk as long as the pumping happens. So you don't even have to get them pregnant again. You could probably just pump that cow for 10 years after one baby, and that supply will never stop from my understanding, at least with humans.
Babies typically, like,
They're
either
gonna
they're
go
going to be
away.
used or they're killed. Babies. And it's actually sad when you go to farms, you realise just how many animals are babies. We're talking about
Elbow says veal is big in Spain. Okay, yeah, no, I didn't know that. I'm sure it's big different places, and different countries have their things. I think veal is one of the easiest things to argue against, to get people to be against. And part of that so there's a mixture of the things. I think one of the most horrible things, assuming that it is as sad as it seems, is the pulling a calf away from its mother. That's just such a devastating thing. Because I think mammals in general, like, while they're pregnant, they build this connection with the animal, and they would do anything. Like human women, I believe there's cases where, like, if their baby is like under a car, they can actually, like, the adrenaline rush makes it so they can even, like, pick up a car. But at very least, they'll do some horrible, crazy, fucked up things to stop somebody from, like, stealing their baby or whatever. Like you will basically just do anything. You have this, like, chemical connection to it from when you're pregnant with it that just makes you keep it alive, which makes perfect sense with evolution. And so a cow giving birth, if it's anything like a human or any other mammals that, like, will protect its baby at all cost, and then that cow's tied down and the baby's just taken away. Gosh, that's just so devastating. Now, I don't know if there's any ways to try to figure out if that's more devastating than various different harms that are done to an animal itself, if the emotional devastation is. But I think that's something that you can at least get people to empathize with. But the other element with veal that's a problem is there's a part of the process where it's a very young calf that gets killed for veal, but they tie it to, like, they basically just have it stuck in an area where it can't move, because part of the taste that people like is that there's no muscle being gained, so they don't want the calf to walk around. So it's and I think it's starved, so it's, like, stuck in a spot, starved, and they don't want it to walk around and get muscle. They don't want it to eat any food, and so, most creatures are social creatures. So cows want to go play around with other cows. So this devastating thing, like, it makes grinding up baby chicks when they're born look like Sesame Street, compared to having something be alive for a few weeks and starved and tied to a pole. I would much rather all these calves go through a giant grinder the day they're born. So anyway, that sounds horrible. That might sound like the thing that bugged vegan gays about my Beatless Monday thing, but it just sounds horrible. It's not actually horrible. It's actually better. It's just some of these things we don't like to think about. Okay, I think you're wrong about human milk production, but I'm not a great expert. Okay, I could be wrong. I mean, my wife breastfed my daughter for, I think it was about 3 years. And then it's a pretty wild process to getting the milk to stop coming. I assume that human lactation was much longer than most other animals, since infancy is much longer. No, that's correct. But I think it's because of animals will stop. Like, every animal has its amount of time that they probably drink milk, and then they go off to do other things. But if the female body thinks that milk still needs to be made, it'll keep making it. So the calf will stop drinking it way younger than a human baby will stop drinking. But if you keep pumping, then I'm pretty sure it keeps going. But I want to look into it. It's good to know. So I'll look into it further. Carson seems to think human lactation is not constrained by any time. Yes, correct. I keep hearing weird noises at my house. I hope everybody's okay. Where would you put foie gras on this list of the worst? Yeah, so I just watched a video of it and it looks devastating. But we have to keep in mind that what seems bad to us isn't always bad to us. Now, foie gras is probably it's probably a somewhat bad process, but there's something about birds and their necks and gag reflexes to where a human having that tube shoved in them and pumped with, I can't remember exactly what they're pumped with, versus a duck. Is it a duck or goose? Maybe it's a goose. A goose having that, there's something that shuts off in their airway that does a thing where essentially they feel slight discomfort, from my understanding. Now, I don't know if there's a huge discomfort from the force feeding itself, the food being in the stomach the weird way it is, and it like plumps up the liver and all this stuff. There's probably a horrible aspect to that, but I remember thinking this is clearly horrible, and then thinking, okay, this is a little less horrible now that I know how this animal works. It's kind of like I do really well with oxygen, but a fish does not. Different things work different ways. So anyways, I'm not excusing foie gras in any way, but obviously what matters is suffering and also removal of life and removal of experiences. But for me, suffering is the main thing. And so, yeah, it matters. The detail matters. I would much rather, like as I've figured out with people recently, it's far better to eat factory farmed cows than factory farmed chickens. And this has to do with the level of suffering. So yeah, the detail matters. Yeah, but also the force feeding might not be the worst part for them, but the unhealthy metabolism for having a huge liver. Yeah, exactly. And it's part of why I in a lot of ways hate ownership of all animals. Now there are some studies that'll show that like vegan cat food and vegan dog food can be better for pets than non-vegan stuff. But setting that aside for a second, just imagining health itself and not even talking about veganism. Imagine a dog eating just typical dog food that's this processed, full of grains, garbage, but it has meat in it. So we're not talking about veganism right now. And then imagine that dog eating like whatever dogs are designed to eat. Some they're omnivores, so like some fruits and veggies or whatever. But then like this would have been a better example if we did cats. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. But then they ate like some raw, like I don't know. Let's say you got like, I think chicken necks are a thing that like you can get basically for free from butcher shops, and it's just like this raw meat that they can eat. And then just looking at their health and how like day to day, like unhealthy people feel horrible when they're unhealthy and healthy people feel great and they're running around. Dogs must be the same way. And so whether it's vegan food or not vegan food or whatever, if pets are fed unhealthy foods, it's just so devastating to me. And I hope that most animal owners out there do the best they can for their animals. I know I do, and it costs way more than it should. I mean, there's so many things that money could be spent on to help homeless, to do all kinds of different things for humans, that for humans to keep breeding animals and spending billions. Let's look it up real quick. How much spent on pets 2022? Okay, so the average pet owner spends $1,480 every single year on their dogs, 902 on their cats. What's the overall? 2 out of 3 households own pets. How much should we spend? In total, Americans spend $124 billion on their pet products and services in 2021. That's equal to buying 2,638,298 new cars. I don't know. So, I have some utilitarian or consequentialist buddies that are such big fans of the idea of creating sentient beings to have more pleasure in the world. So maybe creating some of these for that reason for them is good. For me, I say let's not have pets. I don't know exactly what to do with suffering in the wild, but that's its own thing that maybe we can figure out. But we don't have pets. We don't kill and eat animals. And we look at these billions of dollars, $124 billion that we don't need to spend on animals, pets, I mean. But if we are going to have pets, let's spend all the money and give them a high quality of life. Let's see. I'm sort of against simple false argument for what? I'm not sure what that was about. Oh, you're probably talking to Elbow. I think the real horror and suffering is the huge overblown liver. Yeah, no, that's probably true. So yeah, basically we just, in any cases where there's sentient beings, we got to detect where the suffering is, how much suffering it is, and the less suffering, the better, for sure. Dogs are not designed to eat anything. Dogs evolved to benefit better from consuming certain things. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how long it takes to evolve to do better on different things. It's complicated. It's a complicated mess. It's kind of like, like humans probably all were lactose intolerant at some point, but over the years, like some bodies just became capable of consuming it. But then it just makes you wonder, like, does the body just shut off the warning sign saying don't consume this by being not lactose intolerant and it's horrible for you, but the warning signs aren't showing up? Or have you evolved for it to not be horrible for you? And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know if anybody does, but I hope they do. And if they don't, I hope they find out. Henry P., hello there. I've been talking to you outside of here, but it's nice to see you in here. I am not sure if pain and suffering scales depending on intelligence, but I think egg-laying chickens have it the worst, even if lower intelligence. Yeah, that might be true. So I don't think there's a correlation between intelligence and suffering, which is why I think with intelligence, you have a higher likelihood of maybe emotional suffering. So if dogs being pretty intelligent, they can probably like kind of maybe have their feelings hurt or feel like they miss other dogs or their owners or whatever. If their owners aren't there, and they can feel this emotional thing. Where I have guinea pigs that I have 3 rescue guinea pigs. Those are the ones I was talking about that I feed too well, and they just get all the fresh veggies. But anyways, I don't think they have any emotion, like many emotions, or at least not the same way. And so I think intelligence affects emotional pain and suffering, but I think any sentient being, I don't know which ones are more or less capable of feeling pain, but like if you take a chicken or a cow, they're way different in size. They're probably way different in intelligence, or just take a large pig and a chicken. Pigs are really intelligent. Chickens, I don't think are intelligent, and one's way bigger than the other. But if you just took a tack, or at least equal size tack, like equivalent to their size, or even maybe not, and you poke both of them with a tack and it goes in and, shoots a little blood out, they're going to both run away and they're both sad. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is a way to detect it. If we just can detect sentience, but we can't detect levels of suffering. But that's what I would love to know, is which ones are more capable of pain and suffering. If we knew that the suffering from doing the same act to one animal was way lower than another, then what we should be advocating for, along with veganism, would be for people to consume the one that takes way less suffering. The more something can suffer, the more horrible it is that it's made to suffer. Let's see. And then Jerem is in here. Hello, Jerem. Dogs have actually gained the ability to digest starch from their long association with human. humans, unlike wolves. Interesting. Yeah, and I don't know much about that. And I want to look into that, but I wonder if it's that because I don't know how quickly you can evolve. I mean, starch I don't think has been around long. Like starch as in starch is removed from things. Now, if you mean starch as in starchy foods, like dogs maybe used to be more like bears, where they'd eat berries and some animals or whatever, where now they'll eat, like I had a dog when I was a kid that loved carrots, and that's a starchy food. So so maybe that's what you're referring to, and that makes sense. That's a good point. For some reason, I was thinking starch like cornstarch or starchy additives put in dog foods. But yeah, I wonder if animals will adapt to being able to consume it better in a way, but it's still bad for you, or if eventually it would become good for you. Like if humans continue, like it's horrible that humans eat so unhealthy, but if humans for the next like 10,000 years or million years just eat deep fried food and pizza and ice cream and all this stuff, are they going to evolve for that to become the healthy thing? Or because it's unhealthy, they'll evolve to not doing well with it so they can be warned more not to? Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Let's see. Reasonable vegan, they're mostly eating starch now. Standard dry dog foods are mostly corn and rice. Got it. So Jeremy, the question becomes like, are they evolving to have that be something that is good for them, or have they just evolved to tolerate it somewhat and it's not good for them? Because I'm not sure how that kind of thing works. Corn and rice are hardly additives in most dog foods. They're essentially the product. The same scrap meat is, and some scrap meat has additives. Interesting. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to go a little further with this. I don't know if I'll finish this whole video, but
Animals being killed at 6 weeks old, 6 months old. It's because their flesh is tender. But imagine if I told you I ate tender dog bit like puppies.
No, that is true, because in my country, I don't like it. Just the small pigs and not the
unhealthy food. Let's see. No selection pressure because people only have to live until age of reproduction. Interesting. The dog thing she said is interesting. Because yeah, this is probably the best way to look at the thing I was talking about before with the Slaveless Tuesdays and the Beatless Mondays, is what are we used to? And so the same thing happens with this dog thing, where I'd be more devastated by somebody eating people than eating dogs. So even though I care about dogs and pigs and all these other animals and I don't want them to suffer, there is a reason to care for one more than another. Now, I don't know how much intelligence plays a part in that, because, yeah, I think I'd care more about somebody eating a dog than, like, a chicken. But pigs seem to be pretty intelligent. I don't know, putting an animal in a maze and seeing it complete the maze, like, I don't know if that makes me want it to live more than one that can't complete the maze. If we could detect that that the most intelligent animal suffered the least and the dumbest animal suffered the most, I would still care about that one suffering the most. The question is, does the intelligence add to the suffering? Does the intelligence make them more aware of their suffering? Does it make them more fearful? If a really dumb animal like a chicken, I don't know if they're dumb, but let's imagine they're chicken. Imagine they're dumb and you can come at them with a knife that they've seen their friends get cut up with, and they don't care. They don't run away from you because they're dumb. Then they don't have that fear, which I'd view as part of the suffering. Where maybe a cow or a pig, if it sees you coming at it with something, it'll cower. And that cowering is part of the suffering. So that is where I would add in the level of intelligence as mattering. Let's see. Okay.
small baby ones. But less than a year, they kill them. Yeah. And they put the roasted. Yeah, very sad.
People always focus on this less than a year thing. And maybe it should matter. I don't know. I don't know. Um, uh, but I don't think it should. Similar to I was talking about it's better to be a male chick being put in a grinder that same day than it is to be a baby calf being turned into veal. And so same thing where if we talk about like lamb versus mutton, lamb means it's under 1 year old, mutton means it's over 1 year old. Honestly, when it comes to animals that are in farms, especially factory farms, I would say the younger you kill it, the better. Now, there could be an argument that if something was on a nice farm that could run around and have a good time, and let's say that we could objectively say that it had a net positive life, then if you were to kill it 2 years in versus 5 years into its life, maybe it's better to do the 5 years. But that would have to be on a high assumption that it has a net positive life. So anyways. Okay, Henry P. says, what do you think about the fact that humans rely less on crude sensory information? Our senses are very weak and crude compared to other animals. Sight, taste, a dog's sense of smell is 10,000 times ours. What do you think about the fact that humans rely less on our senses are weak and crude compared? I mean, I think about that somewhat. I think it's an interesting topic. I think that if we didn't have such an abundance of food and make all this processed food and whatnot, I think similar to other animals, we would probably just either have an instinct or smell out what we need. Like, so when my wife was pregnant this last time, she hates grapefruit, but she craved grapefruit. And I don't know if it's just the vitamin C because she wasn't craving oranges, but she craved grapefruit. And I don't think it's just because pregnant people crave weird things or whatever. The baby uses up a lot of the nutrients in your body, so you are low on a lot of things. She normally had good B12, and that baby just took it all. And so same with maybe something that's in grapefruit. And so it takes this drastic thing like a baby sucking out all your vitamins to make you go, oh, I need this grapefruit. And so I think the same thing where if we didn't have these crazy busy lives distracted by screens and all this food abundance, if we were just out in the wild, I don't know if animals just all have a natural like idea of what they're supposed to eat and they do that versus what they like learn to eat from their fellow animal buddies, or if a big part of it's smelling it out. Like when sometimes I'll toss in some like weeds or grass or dandelions or whatever into the guinea pig cage. And most of the time they'll eat it because they love it. But sometimes they'll smell it and go like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not my thing. Because they like a lot of flowers, but some of them they don't. And so they'll eat the greens from the flowers and the buds and whatnot, but then not other things. And it's just because like if they're hungry, they smell a thing. If it smells like something that's good for them, they'll eat it. It's almost like if they're low on a certain nutrient, they're going to eat whatever smells like that nutrient. So anyways, I'll stop rambling. But yeah, if that's what you meant, yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic, and I care a lot about it. I just don't know a lot about it. Why evolutionarily wouldn't the same be true for pain? Evolutionarily, it's a message saying, don't do this again through punishment, a negative sensation. As Richard Dawkins, evolutionary biologist, said, humans learn far quicker, so should require less pain, whereas animals would require more pain. Yeah, interesting. I like Dawkins. I haven't heard him talk on this, but that's a very interesting idea. I want to look into that further. Basically, anything that can like keep developing an understanding of where more suffering comes from, because I mean that's basically what we can know is bad. Is suffering is bad. We as humans can recognize, we can reason, and we can know what exists, and we know that everything that we think of as bad is something like pain and suffering, and therefore we can know that what makes something bad is something like making things that can suffer and feel pain, making it feel that. And so trying to make it not feel that is great. I think like there'd be a way more important focus on trying to remove pain and suffering throughout our entire planet, more so than it would be to put efforts into giving pleasures to people. It'd be removing that suffering, and then people can try to gather their own pleasure on their own, or you can help give somebody pleasure. But I just think it's more important to help, most important to not cause pain and suffering yourself, and to convince others not to, but then also to prevent things from pain and suffering that aren't related to you. You could find an animal that's like half dead that's on the ground and it's suffering, and you can take it out of its misery. Now, you didn't cause that pain and suffering, but that's pain and suffering you can stop, and I think that's very important. Can you imagine living in a modern society with such acute senses? Yeah, no, that'd be wild and kind of awesome. One interesting fact about our species is that our young children seem to socially calibrate to suffering they feel when they fall and skin their knee and look around to see the responses. Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting for sure. If I only knew what nutrients my body needs, then clearly my body would need tortillas, chips, and pizza beyond meat, sausage. Our appetite isn't governed by what nutrients our bodies need. No, that's true. Sort of, yes. I think if we only had natural foods that grew that, now it's complicated what we call natural or whatnot, because we could selectively, grow things and make things grow in different ways. But I think it's different. There's different things that our bodies crave. So our bodies might crave something that has the nutrients we need in it, but our bodies also crave things that will make our dopamine levels go off. And so if bright, fresh fruits make our dopamine levels go off, then when we see those, we want those, we eat them, dopamine levels, yes. But the problem is if we figure what else if we figure out like, hey, if I take this plant and pull this sugar out of here and pull this oil out of here and put this together and make these chips and pizzas and these different things, and we can scientifically figure out what's going to make our brain go like, oh man, I need this thing more than life itself, then we're going to crave only that element of making the dopamine levels go off. Where I just have a guess, and I could be wrong. I'm no expert on this. But if we didn't have these processed foods and we were just living in the wild, like even right now, if we were just thrown out into the wild, and let's say that this area of the wild had like half the plants were you could eat and half you couldn't or whatever, I just think over time, your body would like take you to the plant that you need that nutrient out of. There's no good philosophical defense I've seen for a strong distinction between need and want. Need and want. Maybe. I think I might have missed something, but yeah, no, I need and want. I don't know. Maybe we're just looking at the word differently. But if you don't have vitamin C in you and you're about to get scurvy, your body needs that. Now, you also want it because your body needs it. But also you could want something like, I want to eat some Impossible Burger, but my body doesn't need that. Need usually means wants for the sake of outcomes that are socially approved. Very interesting. Okay, so let's see. What nutrients do the body... what nutrients do the bodies of urine drinkers need? No, you're missing my point, Lewis. People will do wild different things. People can do things for various different reasons. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. And Jeremy, we'll talk about that other one later. I'm going to watch like another minute or two of this, but then I got to hop out of here.
Do you pay for this? Like, are you vegan or anything?
No, I eat just for the small ones, the baby ones. I feel like...
Why would it be so bad to kill a baby, but not to kill like an adult as well? Because it wouldn't. We're adults. It wouldn't be good to...
if it's a cow.
No! Get out of here, ads.
just when it's or pig, you know, already old enough to, because we need to be fed anyway.
Well, it's interesting as well, though,
Just
because
the small ones, I feel like, oh, poor thing.
yeah. No, the thing is, though, if we
Now, hopefully I don't come across offensive here, but you might feel this because, well, I mean, I feel what you're feeling. Cuter, smaller things, they're cute, and I feel worse for them in a sense. Same with humans. But you might feel it more so because you're female, and you have a nurturing aspect to you. And so even though you eat animals, you can see these cute baby things and think like maybe you had your own babies before and you feel this way. So yeah, this is such a great human moment. Most humans don't think in philosophical ways, and so it's great that this conversation's happening with you. I hope Vegan Gaze here says the right things that helps you think further about it.
think about it, these animals, they're feeding, aren't they? They're eating food. So we're growing food to feed them, to kill them and eat them, when we could just eat the food instead of...
Okay, Henry P. says, are you a realist? I delve into philosophy here and there where I can. I've never gone to school for it or anything, and so I'll read things and I'll learn about, like, I'll hear something, and then when I read about it later, I'll go, okay, now I'm aware of what this thing is. I try not to talk in philosophical terms too much because I know a lot of people get confused by it, like talking about like normative ethics. Normative is such a strange word to describe that it means you're prescribing what somebody should do. I find this stuff fascinating, but I always forget realist, like, okay, are you for ethical realism? So I believe I might be getting this wrong, but if ethical realism would just mean that I think that there are objective moral facts, then yeah, so something like that. I would say I closely align with Sam Harris on this topic, and I think that something as simple as causing something suffering and pain that doesn't want to feel it is something like an immoral act. Now, I think that there are justified immoral acts, and some people start calling those moral once they're justified. But if I had to kill an animal to feed myself or to feed my kids or something, I would do it. I might just consider this an immoral act that I justify, and I would still consider it almost an objective fact. The only thing that could make it not objective is that if I'm wrong about it, that if humans experiencing suffering and knowing they all don't like it, we can all agree on it. Because anybody that does like pain, that liking of the pain isn't the same pain we're talking about, because that is pleasure. So anybody that doesn't like it, it's all agreed upon. And so if we all are magically wrong, so I'd say for humans at very least, we all agree on it. You can't not. The second you don't agree on it, you're talking about something else. You're talking about pleasure. And therefore, I consider this objective. Now, whatever words we use to say, like, I'm going to call this something else because I consider it justified, like, that's just not how I would use words. But yes, so now we could be wrong about animals. Maybe now I think we're right about animals. Most scientific studies show that we're right about animals. But hypothetically, since we are not non-Homo sapiens, we Homo sapiens could be wrong that any other animal could suffer. Therefore, maybe that is not an objective fact. But at least us humans that can communicate with each other, I think it's basically an objective fact. But I mean, it doesn't matter in a sense whether it's you know what I mean. I don't know. Yeah. You should set up a chat with Lance Independent on this topic. Okay, I will look into him. If you could, I hate to put people out, but actually, never mind. I was going to say, if you could just send me a message about that so I don't forget, because I don't usually go back through the live streams and check the comments, but I actually have this pad of paper here, so I'm just going to write that down. Lance Independent. Okay. That sort of definitional circular hedonism is weak sauce. Yeah, you would say so. Let's see. Sam Harris is unsufferable, but I found his book about objective morality pretty convincing at the time. Yeah, cool. No, me too. Contrarian 420, always nice to see you. I think his moral basis being rooted in suffering equals bad is infantile. What is, I don't know this word. Of or occurring among babies of very young age children. Let's see. Oh, infantile. Yeah. There's some words that like you just like you hear sometimes, but you don't make it part of your vocabulary. So when you read them, it just doesn't come across right. Interesting. That's interesting that you think that. What it wouldn't. We use words to communicate with each other. So if somebody wants if they view a word as meaning a certain thing, they're just meaning that certain thing. Like if I use a word like pen to mean this thing you write with, but somebody else wants to call a desk a pen. Now I could say that's wrong or dumb or whatever, but the reason it's not good for them to do that is they won't be good at communicating. It's not because that object of a desk shouldn't have the sound pen put to it for a name. It's just that they won't be able to communicate well. So if somebody wants the word moral to mean a certain thing, then they might not be able to communicate well with you, but I don't think that means they're thinking in like a childish way. Because that's kind of how I view it. And not that it means like it's not a childish way because I view it that way. But the word moral, because you're saying the word I think his moral basis being rooted in suffering equals bad. The word moral refers to good and bad, right or wrong. And the right or wrong mostly in the sense of like right as in good, like the good thing to do. Not like if you went on Elm Street instead of First Street and you didn't go on the right one. It's not that kind of right. It's good or bad essentially. And so for something to be good or bad, you could view it in two possible ways. It could either be the good or bad thing to do, just based on a variety of reasons, or we could view the word bad needs to mean something. Why should something be bad? Now, I can't think of any other reason for something to be bad other than like suffering and pain. Now, something can be like a weird offshoot of it. It doesn't have to be physical suffering or pain. I think lying is probably not good. I think it usually leads to a bad outcome, but it leads to a suffering and pain outcome, even if it's an emotional one. So I guess I don't know how to view morals outside of pleasure and suffering. So maybe I'm wrong there, though. Okay, Henry P says anti-realism BS. So Henry P, if you go onto my channel and then into the about section, you'll see my email there. You should shoot me an email because I don't know if you're up for having chats. But not only could me and you chat, but I got some buddies that would love to chat with you about anti-realism. Contrarian 420 says, I think it's just silly to assume suffering is objectively bad. Well, so what do you think? What do you think of the word bad? Like, what does that mean? Now, suffering could lead to a good outcome, and therefore it can be good. Now, I think this is almost only the case involving maybe children. So therefore, somebody could want to stay up late and play video games. A kid could. But it's not good for them to. It'd be better for them to get a healthy amount of sleep. So they can suffer, like truly emotionally suffering because they know what video games are like and their brain is telling them they want to do it. And so I agree with you. Yeah, there's suffering that can be good. But once the suffering becomes good, it's not bad anymore. So I think you're right in a sense, but I also think it's best to view what's bad as suffering or pain that isn't causing more good than bad. Once it causes more good, it's good. If somebody likes to be slapped or choked during sexual activities or something, even if we can call that pain to be slapped or choked, if they're liking it, then it's pleasure. So it left like it was necessary to make the pleasure happen. I don't like to view things on like a spectrum of suffering and pleasure, and then at some point it crosses here to here. You have suffering, and then on a separate line you have pleasure, and then so you might have to cause some suffering on this line to get the pleasure if people like that kind of thing. No judgments whatsoever. And the same thing with like raising kids and having a kid be in trouble or whatever. A certain amount of suffering might have a good outcome on them becoming a better person. There's all kinds of things, but I would still call it bad. Let's say you push somebody out of the way of getting hit by a car, and when you push them, they like skin their knee on the cement. So they didn't get hit by a car, so that's good. They scraped their knee, so that's bad, but it's a better outcome. Now this one's complicated because I would still call the scraping of the knee bad. That's suffering. That's bad. That's not good, but it's just better than the alternative. It's not even a thing you can learn from. Getting pushed out of the way of the car makes you learn to think to not be in a place where a car might hit you. Don't stand in the middle of the road. But yeah, I wouldn't say that's a perfect example of pushing somebody down and them scraping their knee is a bad action. It's an immoral action. But pushing them down to push them out of the way, we can view that as an immoral action that's for the best. But we could also view morals as more to do with intention. If you push somebody down and they scrape their knee and you wanted to push them, the scrape was part of that. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just the push is the bad thing and then something worse than you intended happened. But when it comes to the intention to push somebody out of the way of the car, then the aftermath of that maybe shouldn't be connected. But maybe intention should play a pretty big role in how we view morals. It's really complicated. There probably should be a handful of different words for it. And for the most part, we have morals and ethics, which are for most people just interchangeable. There probably should be like 5 different words that cover different elements of this. Maybe there are, and I just don't know them. Oh man, I want to finish this, but I really got to go. Let me do a little more.
Like feeding, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we don't actually, there's no evidence that we need to do this. Yeah. And I mean, that'd be horrible if we needed to do this. Because again, like I know when it's a baby, there's more of that. Oh my gosh, that's a tiny baby. But actually, it wouldn't be okay.
Like I said, the piglets, so tiny.
I've been in those areas with the baby pigs. It's horrible. But we're adults, and it wouldn't be okay to kill us. And so not that they even get
animals,
to adult.
they do that.
Yeah.
Especially in my country, they do the piglets.
Where are you from?
Portugal.
Oh, Portugal. Okay, I've been now.
So they do that. My husband loved it, not for me.
No. But yeah.
Just to think about this, a small thing, 6-7 months old,
But really, we're kind of babies forever if you think about it. We never grow out. So are they. Like brain. you think of a dog, they're a baby forever. Like.
I stopped watching that guy, so I'm guessing this is her husband. I don't know. It's crazy that he's putting up with this conversation but not being part of it. He was smoking earlier, and I kept waiting to see if he was going to throw the cigarette butt down on the ground. That's one of my least favorite things. It's not the hugest deal compared to most bad things in the world, but gosh, it grinds my gears. I can't believe people have this, like, everybody views littering as bad. Most people don't litter. But then we have this idea that for some reason, because it's just part of how it's always been done, that when you finish your cigarette, you flick the cigarette butt on the ground. And it's not viewed, like, it should be viewed in such disgust. Like, everybody that's friends with people that smoke, that's fine. Be friends with them. If they throw it on the ground, tell them our friendship's over and tell you stop doing that. And then maybe the world will be a better place.
And these animals, they're an individual inside there, and then we breed them into existence and just take everything away from them. And we want people to stop, because you can go vegan. You literally all these big shops.
Pointing out the individual inside there, I don't know if that's the best route to go. And again, I'm being kind of nitpicky. I really think she's doing a great job here. Because if people don't relate to that, if they don't truly think of the idea of there being an individual inside, they'll go like, oh, it's just an animal. I think it's definitely more important to focus on the suffering. Now, you don't have to think suffering is all that matters. You could think the experience, being able to experience things, and therefore maybe wanting to live, and therefore their lives mattering. But if you put a heavy focus on the suffering, everybody knows what it's like to suffer, and nobody should want anything to suffer. That one's really hard to argue. It's hard to argue that any suffering should happen for something pretty needless, like taste pleasure for a couple minutes. Whereas many people could argue that if they don't think an animal has a care of a will to live, that if it just died instantly, it wouldn't matter. So I just think the better focus might be on the suffering.
If you go in, there's something vegan. And if there isn't, go to the next one.
No, I'm not vegan. No, I'm not. I eat just a small piglet. No, I can't.
Would you say that that's justified in your view to do that?
First, I don't like the taste because it seems like taste the milk still. The feeding, they feed milk with the babies.
Yeah.
Still in that. I think the meat seems like taste the milk. I think I'm not sure. It's a very different taste than the normal pig.
Yeah, but so you eat the smaller pigs, are you saying? Like,
They eat the
okay.
not me.
But you don't eat. But so
I
you
don't like the taste.
She said she won't eat the smaller ones. She'll eat the bigger ones.
just eat adult pigs.
Adults, yeah.
Yeah. So why would you say? Do you think it's okay morally to eat the adults, to have them killed, or
So in other words, what we're going to eat if we not kill the cows and the pigs? That's the small ones. I feel like much poor thing,
Well, I've been
suffer.
This is so part of this might be a lost in translation thing. It seems like English is definitely not our first language. But what's happening here is very interesting because I think people get in this mindset like they don't want to think of themselves as bad. And in some cases, people don't want to be rude. So she probably wants out of there. She probably wants to get out quick, but she doesn't want to just walk away and seem rude. And then she's repeating the same things over and over again because everybody wants to come across good. This is a good thing. This is part of what makes us good. She keeps talking about how much she doesn't want to eat the little pigs because that's a good act. Not eating little sentient beings is good. Not eating adult sentient beings is good too. But she's pointing out a good thing about herself instead of being willing to challenge herself. But I'm guessing with what little bit's been said, there's no way there's going to be any, at least not much depth to this conversation. But I think Vegan Gaze is doing a good job here.
I've been vegan for 9 years.
Oh, right. No, I'm
Yeah,
not that.
and literally, I eat everything.
Meat.
Well, I eat
Chicken,
burgers.
yeah.
I eat vegan chicken.
Everything.
I like.
No, I'm not a vegan. Yeah.
Well, I would say definitely looking.
See, like Vegan Gaze here is saying that the different vegan things she eats, but then the lady's like, no, I'm not a vegetarian. A big part of this is I don't think she's understanding what's being said.
If you want I want like a beef stew, find like vegan alternatives because otherwise you are paying into this, and I know they might not like look like babies or anything, but it's still something that we say, oh, that's wrong, and it says everything about us when we see something wrong.
Okay, I only missed a minute of this. I really do got to run, but anyways, Vegan Gaze, if you watch this, I really like your content. I think your stuff's good. I hope I didn't offend you earlier on in this stream. I would like to have a talk with you, but again, I don't need to. Not everybody needs to talk. I think you're definitely right about that. But I do want to encourage more people to be open to conversations and others' ideas. I get attacked by so many vegans on YouTube all the time, calling me not vegan and all these different things. We might have different approaches. You don't have to think what I think is like perfectly right, but I think maybe it's best to be as friendly as possible, at least to people that are youth that are trying to do somewhat of what you're trying to do. Like, so the only things I will attack about vegans at all would be if they do something that I think is harmful to veganism. And I'll say, don't do that. That's harmful. It'll never be like, I'll never talk to you because you've done this. In fact, that makes me want to talk to them more, so I can hopefully try to talk them out of that. But anyways, anybody watching, thanks for watching. And if anybody wants to come on and chat sometimes, shoot me an email. It's in the About section. Like, comment, subscribe, all those things. I don't care about any of those things in a big sense, but those things make videos get out to the world. So if you think anything I have to say is interesting and worth getting out to the world, like, comment, and subscribe, and share with your friends. All right, take care, guys.